Welcome to Veteach. In database management system, today we are going to discuss an important concept, that is data models. Data models define how the logical structure of the database is modeled. Data models define how the data collected to each other and how they proceed and stored inside the system. In olden days, the first data model could not have any proper and structured data model because they are flat data models where all the data used to be kept in the same plane. So the data models cannot be scattered and cannot be differentiated from one another. In earlier data models were not so scientific, hence they were prone to introduce the duplication and some miscellaneous errors. So to overcome these analysis, we have two important data models. They are entity relationship model and relational model. Here, while coming to the entity relation model, that is ER model, is based on the notation of real world entities and relationships among them. Real world entities and relationships among them. Real world entities means the real world objects which deals with the real world things and activities. For example, the real world objects means the people who are working in organization, the students who are studying in the colleges, universities and schools. And in the same way, the data which belongs to them and the banking sector and airlines, these are called the real world entities. To represent the relationship among these entities and their data, we are using the entity relationship model. While formulating the real world scenario into the model, that is database model, ER model creates some features. They are entity set, relationship set, general attributes and constraints. Coming to the entity set means the things that exist in that organization or enterprise gives the entity set. That means on which we are going to collect the data and store the data and maintain the relationship. Relationship set means what are the relationships available on the entities. General attribute means the properties of the entities that are available are considered to maintain the relationship. And constraints are the anomalies and the things that are used for proper and convenient access of the data and storing the data and creating the database. Here the database is created in the form of tables. So the table will have the attributes and the attributes are constrained for the proper access and retrieval and storing of the data. Now the ER model is the conceptual design of database. ER model is based on entities and their attributes. Now we are going to look into the model and ER diagram. The next concept is components of ER diagram. Here we need to know one more thing. The ER diagram represents the ER model in the form of different shapes and structures. In ER model, we have three main entries, that is entity, attribute and relation. These three entries will have different types. In entity, we have only one type, that is weak entity. And in coming to the attributes, there are four types of attributes: key attributes, composite attributes, multi-valued attributes and derived attributes. And coming to the relation that we are going to show in the ER diagram, there are one-to-one relationship, many-to-one and one-to-many and many-to-many relations. Now we are going to discuss what are the types of entity, attribute and relation. In entity, there is only one type, that is weak entity. First of all, going to know the weak entity representation. We are going to know how the entity is represented in ER diagram. An entity may be an object, class, person or place. In ER diagram, the entity can be represented as rectangles. Consider an organization in an example. That organization will have the manager, product. Now move on to the next one, that is entity. Before going to know the types of entity, we need to define what is an entity and we need to know what is an entity. An entity may be an object, class, person and place. In the ER diagram, an entity can be represented with the shape called rectangle. So the rectangle represents the entity in the ER diagram. Consider an organization as an example, then the manager, product, employee, department, etc. comes under entities. Here, look into this diagram. There are two entities, that is employee and department, which are represented in the rectangle. And in the middle, we are showing a shape in the form of diamond, which represents, it is a diamond or rhombus, which represents the relationship between these two entities. And we are going to discuss about this relationship entity in the next model, that is relational model. Now, what is the type of an entity? Here only one type of entity is there, that is weak entity. The entity that depends on other is called weak entity. The weak entity does not have attribute on its own, and it's represented in the double rectangle which we have shown in this diagram like this. Look into this example, loan and installment. The installment will have the attribute which is dependent on the loan. So the installment is represented in double rectangle and the loan is a individual entity, so it is represented in single rectangle. Now move on to the next one, that is attribute. That is the next entry in the ER diagram, attribute. Attribute is used to describe the property of an entity and ellipse is used to represent an attribute. So like this, like this. So ellipse is used for representation of attribute in the AR diagram. See this example, here we considering the example student. For the student there are name, roll number, age and address. These are the attributes of the entity student. So those attributes are represented, are defined here with the help of ellipse. And here the name, roll number, age and address, these are represented with the help of ellipse. Now we are going to study about what are the types of attributes in the ER diagram. There are different types of attributes. The first one comes under key attribute. The key attribute is used to represent the main characteristic of entity. The key attribute is used to represent the main characteristic of an entity. Suppose, what is the main characteristic of an entity, that is student of an university? The main characteristic of an entity of a student is nothing but the roll number or ID. That means the names may match, the marks may match, and the address may match with the other entities, but the roll number is unique. So roll number is considered as the key attribute. Like that, for any entity there are key attributes that takes an important role to distinguish from other entities. Here it is represented as the primary key. Consider here in this diagram where we consider the attributes of a student as name, roll number, age and address, and see this roll number is the key attribute or the primary key which is represented as text underlined. So the key attribute in the ER diagram is represented with underlined on the text. Next one is composite attribute. An attribute composed of many other attributes known as composite attribute. Look into the example of an age or date of birth. Date of birth contains three distinct entities, that means entries, date, month and year in different formats. So a date entry is composed of date, month and year. Like that, we are considering the name attribute which is composed of first name, middle name and last name. In general, while filling the forms or while entry into the registration forms or filling different application forms, generally we used to observe these three things as the first name, middle name and last name. So the name attribute is composition of first name, middle name and last name. So the entries for this entity attribute are in three types. Next one is multi-valued attribute. If an attribute is having more than one value, can we define an attribute which is having more than one value? For example, consider me as an entity. I am having my name, number, address And coming to my phone number, I may have more than one phone number. So the phone number attribute is multi-valued attribute. Look at the same here. For an example, a student or employee may have more than one phone number. So we took the example as phone number to represent multi-valued attribute. Next one is derived attribute. An attribute that can be derived from other attribute known as derived attribute. That means the value of an attribute is dependent on other attribute, and the value of the attribute is extracted by depending upon the value of other attribute. Then that attribute is called derived attribute, and that derived attribute is represented with dashed ellipse. For example, a person age changes over time and can be derived from the attribute like date of birth. For example, a person age changes over time can be derived from another attribute like date of birth. Here, see this example. Student age is dependent on his date of birth. Age is dependent on date of birth. So, the age attribute is represented in dashed ellipse. So, these are the types of relationships, attributes in the ER diagram. Next, move on to the relationship. A relationship is used to describe the relation between the entities. Diamond or rhombus is used to represent the relationship. Here, teacher and student are the entities, and the middle we are representing the relation with the help of rhombus or diamond. With the help of rhombus or diamond. What is the relationship between the teacher and student? Here the relationship between the teacher and student is teacher teaches to the student. This is the relationship among the two entities, that is teacher and student. The teacher teaches the mathematics to the student. The teacher teaches the computer science to the student. Next one, there are different types in the relationship. First one comes as one-to-one relationship. What is one-to-one relationship? When only one instance of entity is associated with relationship, then it is one-to-one relationship. That is, in two ways, the two entities are related in single manner. That is, a female can marry a man, or a male, or a male can marry a female. Here the marriage is the relationship and female and male are the entities. Male is related to female in single relationship and female is related to male in single relationship. So this is one-to-one relationship among the entities. Next one is one-to-many relationship. When only one instance of entity on the left side and more than one instance of the entity on the right side. Association with the relationship is known as one-to-many relationship. We can explain this through the example. A scientist can go for number of inventions. That means number of inventions can be done by the scientist. That is, this is one-to-many relationship. That means one scientist can go for number of inventions. That means number of inventions can be done by a scientist. Here the invention is the relationship and this is one-to-many relationship. Next one is many-to-one relation. Many-to-one relation. Consider an example, then we can go with the definition. Student, that means many students can go for the registration in single course. Suppose CSE, that means nearly more than 60 students or 50 students can register in the course CSE. So one course is registered by number of students and many students registered only one course. So this means many entities are having relationship with one entity. This is many to one relationship. Next one is many to many. Here also look at the example. Number of employees are assigned with number of projects or number of projects are assigned to the number of employee. Here assignment is the relationship. That means many employee can deal with number of projects and many projects can deal with number of employee. This is called many to many relationship. So these are the entries in the ER diagram, that is entity, attributes and relationship and their types. Now we are going to discuss about relational model concept. Next data model in the DBMS, very important one. Relational data model can be represented with the table, where a table contains columns and rows. Each row is known as a tuple. Why? Because in the row, the data which is present is having interrelation. That interrelated data is called a tuple. Each column of the table has name and attribute. So, suppose this is the table, these are the columns 1, 2, 3, 4, and these are the rows, that is A, B, C. And the data which is present here is having interrelation. So, A is called tuple 1, B 2, C 3. So, these are named as T1, T2 and T3. Why they are called as tuples means the data which is represented, that is the instance, the existence of one entry is having the interrelation among the data. Next one, domain. It contains the set of atomic values that an attribute can intake. That means, suppose an attribute is there of a student name, that means which can be entered only in the form of characters, not in the form of names or special characters. So the domain represent what type of characters or the data has to be entered as an entry into the entity, or that means attribute. Next one, attribute. It contains the name of the column in a particular table. Each attribute, that is AI, must have a domain, that is AI. That means it must have the domain, which type of data it has to be entered, and it should be defined with the particular name. Next one, relational instance. Relational instance, which is nothing but the data which we are entered for particular entity or for particular object is called the relational instance. In relational instance database, a relational instance represented by finite set of tuples, defined by the finite set of tuples. That means we can identify how many entities are available or entries are available in the database. Next one, relational schema. A relational schema contains the name of relation and the name of columns or attributes. And next one is relational key. In relational key, each row has more attributes and it can identify the row in relational uniquely. Look into this example which shows how an relational model is defined. We consider the relation as student relation, that is nothing but student table, which have the columns or the attributes as name, roll number, phone number, address and age. And these are called rows, which defined as tuples, that is T1, T2, T3, T2, T3, T4 and T5. So the number of tuples in the student relation is 5. In the given table, roll name, roll number, phone number, address and age are the attributes, and the instance of schema, that means how many number of students are entered, is 5, which is defined as 5 tuples. Suppose what is the data available in the T3, that is tuple 3, named as Lakshman with the roll number 33 and the phone number like this, and the address as Gurgaon and the age as 20. So this is how the relational model is represented with the help of tables, which is considered as the relation. What are the properties of relation? Name of the relation is distinct from all other relations, which is nothing but the name of the table must be unique to distinguish from other tables. Each relation cell contain exactly one atomic, that means single value. That means whatever the cell contained in the table, it must have only one value. Each attribute contains distinct name. The name which we are assigning in a relation to the attribute must be distinct. That means it should not match with other attributes. Attribute domain has no significance. That means we can define any kind of domain to the attribute that depends upon the property or the requirement of the entry into that attribute. Tuple has no duplicate value. That means in a tuple there should not be duplicate values in an entry of the relation. So these are the two models present in the database management system. They are entity relationship model and next one is relational model. Both are very important and distinct from each other. Thank you so much.